Stop playing fair. That is the sentence you hesitate to speak because it feels indecent. It seems to stain the tongue because it clashes with the childhood promise that good will win in the end. Yet the oldest handbook of applied realism, The Prince, does not blink when it tells you what the world already shows you every week. If you want to hold anything that matters, you must stop letting the game define you and start defining the game. Fairness, as most people practice it, is not justice. It is a costume worn to win applause while power walks out the back door with the prize. The darker lesson is not that cruelty reigns, but that ritual does not. Ritual is cheap. Results are expensive. In an arena run by perception and incentives, it is not the speech about fairness that commands respect. It is the control of pace, access, and meaning. You are either writing the caption under the scene, or you are the scene being captioned by someone who learned faster than you. The sooner you admit that, the sooner you stop leaking power under the banner of being the better person, which in practice often means the easiest person to move. So watch what happens in practice. The more you narrate your goodness, the more you publish the map of your soft spots. The more you insist on being fair by the book while opponents play to win, the more you look like a volunteer for sacrifice. The culture will clap for your posture while it rewards someone else's poise. The person who asks fewer questions and moves a clear plan wins the schedule. The person who writes a thread about intentions wins nothing that ships. Playing fair, as the average person performs it, is bidding for approval with a discount code taped to your spine. People treat fairness like a charm on a chain. They think if they show it, weather will spare them. They mistake niceness for immunity, apologies for protection, and access for affection. They answer accusations as if a court clerk had just called their case. They negotiate against themselves to look reasonable. They write paragraphs where a sentence would have done. The unconventional player, your future self, studies what actually moves a room. People orient around presence, not essays. They adjust to standards they can see. They comply with tempo they can feel. They trust records that speak for themselves. You win by controlling the frame, not by donating a diary. You win by showing that your decisions have weight and your silences are not gaps, but signals. Begin where your instincts mislead you the most. The urge to explain. You thought clarity would save you. It does. In rooms of builders, in the teams that tell the truth, in contracts you intend to honor. But in ambushes, explanation is gasoline. The quickest way to collapse your position is to treat every accusation like a sincere request for illumination. Most such requests are fishing expeditions for leverage, not for truth. Imagination is a stronger amplifier than your paragraph. Silence with presence makes the accuser overextend, makes the insecure confess more than they wanted to, makes the crowd feel the gravity of your refusal to audition for their approval. You are not hiding. You are refusing conscription into a frame you did not choose. Replacing fairness as performance with fairness as order begins with proof. People do not respect breathless purity. They respect delivery. They forgive quirks in a pilot who lands the plane. That is why your argument must be your record. When the winds rise, you do not say you are reliable. You show receipts, agreements signed, deliverables shipped, version numbers advanced, scope documents dated. In disputes, resist the theater of righteous paragraphs and bring the ledger. This is how you keep your soul out of the mud and your hands on the wheel. You will be accused of being cold for letting paper speak. That is fine. Paper is calmer than you are. Paper does not blink. To hold that posture, you will use distance and delay as instruments rather than apologies. When you react on someone else's timing, you surrender authorship. When you hold tempo and think on your time, you look like an architect. Distance says you are not available to be drafted into someone else's storm. Delay says you will not be hurried into sloppiness to soothe an observer's anxiety. This is not cruelty. It is stewardship. Architects pace themselves because the building must stand. You owe people what was promised by the date that matters, not a live stream of your heartbeat. If you find yourself tempted to answer immediately just to quiet the tension, remember that tension is not danger. It is a tool that lets weak arguments wobble in their own shoes. Stopping the childish version of fair does not mean endorsing chaos. It means withdrawing your faith from ritualized displays and relocating it in structure. Your standards are your constitution. They are not slogans, they are prices. The price of access is that timelines are real. Gossip dies at your table, And excuses do not print money. You do not advertise these standards, you enforce them. Enforcement is quiet. Invitations without an agenda do not get accepted. Meetings that drift get ended. Deliverables that slide meet consequences. If someone thinks this is unfriendly, they have confused warmth with sponge. You are not a sponge. Consider ordinary battlefields. In the office, a colleague frames you as stubborn because you refuse last-minute scope creep. The average person starts defending their personality. The strategic person names the trade. Scope is fixed to protect quality. If priority has shifted, nominate what gets dropped and propose a date, then silence. The short sentence is a scalpel. The pause is anesthesia. The room begins to operate on itself. You do not perform sainthood. You draw a line and offer an adult choice. In a negotiation, a buyer scoffs at your price. The average person lops 10% to prove reasonableness and bleeds for months. You wait for a breath and ask, which deliverables would you like removed to meet that budget? Then you say nothing. If they are real, they recalibrate. If they were fishing, they leave the dock. Either way, your respect compounds. You made expectations explicit and refused to subsidize fantasy with free labor. In a relationship, a boundary is put on trial, and you are asked to provide a museum tour of your motives. The average person narrates their biography until the boundary dissolves. You say, "That's my line. I'm available for plans that respect it," and you refuse to turn love into litigation. That is not withholding. That is refusing to let intimacy become a lever. Your choice produces either a better agreement or a faster ending. Both prevent rot. Both honor reality. Online, a stranger distorts your work and begs for a public duel. The average person supplies free content to the provocation. You post the link to the actual project, thank the audience for their time, and vanish. Your absence robs the bait of oxygen. Your presence would have fed it. You do not owe a mob your pulse. You owe your craft your pulse. Never defend yourself is not a creed. It is a practical shield against traps designed to harvest attention. If a correction is needed, deliver one sentence of fact and leave. If none is needed, let the rumor starve. Notice the common thread. The goal is not to look fair. The goal is to control the frame so the work can stay clean. That is why you often speak last. Not because you are timid, but because you want the full map on the table before you choose a line. Let noise tangle itself. Let exaggerations collide. Then return everyone to the track with one decision. That decision will land only if your history proves you are the person who closes loops. Authority without delivery is cosplay. Delivery without theater is power. There is another lesson from the Prince that you must stop resisting. People weaponize moral language to mask power plays. They call you unfair when they mean you are no longer available for exploitation. They call you selfish when they mean you are not lending me your backbone. They call you ruthless when they mean my favorite lever no longer works. Learn to translate. When someone says you owe them authenticity, hear, I want tools. When someone says you changed, hear, my old method of steering you stopped working. Translation protects your sanity and saves you from negotiating imaginary debts. How do you become unreadable without becoming vague? Remove the unnecessary, not the necessary. Keep your face still, your shoulders settled, your words simple, your eyes steady. Let your body communicate that a verdict has already been reached. Enter rooms like you have already decided what to ignore. Do not nod through every sentence. Ask for numbers and dates. Ask for consequences. Let the silence do the rest. Learn the art of the precise line that ends spirals without venom. Confidence upsets the insecure. I don't owe you authenticity. That claim lacks evidence. We'll revisit next quarter. You are not a bouncer tossing people into a street. You are a judge closing a file. You will hear that this posture is heartless. That criticism confuses warmth with weakness. You can be warm and still refuse to perform. You can be generous and still charge full price. You can be gracious and still end the meeting when the minute arrives. You can be forgiving and still enforce a consequence the second time. The same rule is broken. Appearances of mercy keep your circle human. Enforcement keeps your house standing. If kindness is not paired with teeth, it becomes bait. If mercy is not paired with memory, it becomes a sale. Strategic disappearance is part of the craft. Absence is not avoidance when it is planned. It is a message in the language of scarcity. When you pull back without a speech, a room recalibrates its appetite. Energy wasted on noise turns toward the vacuum you left. People realize which parts of you were access and which were privilege. Low-value invitations dry up. High-value ones arrive with clearer terms. Your power returns like a tide that was leaking through 100 pinholes. You did not threaten anyone. you change the economics of your presence. Carve one maxim into your desk. The more you explain yourself, the lonelier you look. In honest rooms, explanation is sacred because truth saves time. In crooked arenas, explanation is a costume that tells pickpockets where your wallet sits. Give full clarity to your team. Give silence with presence to the crowd. The crowd is not owed access. At best, it is owed delivery when it is a paying audience, and at worst, it is owed nothing at all. Seek therapy for clarity. Seek power for control. And as we all know by now, clarity is for healing. Control is for power. What does it mean to stop playing fair in daily practice? It means you no longer let guilt, shame, or the fear of names move your timeline. It means contracts outrank vibes, scope outranks mood. It means consequences arrive early and quietly. It means your no is a complete sentence and your yes is a binding oath. It means you stop subsidizing the chaos of people who travel with fog. It means you decline invitations that pretend to be opportunities but are really audits of your availability. It means you stop apologizing for standards as if they were personal insults. You will leave rooms by doing this. You will exit projects that required your blood and called it friendship. You will scare off people who mistake a gentle voice for foam walls. Good. Those rooms were debt and those projects were leaks. The circles that remain will be cleaner. The work you ship will be sturdier. The people who stay will be adults, which is to say they will respect you because your lines do not move with weather. They will learn the price of your time and pay it or go elsewhere. Either way, you recover your hours and your spine. How do you keep from sliding into cruelty? The guardrail is simple. Ask whether you are protecting the mission or punishing a person. Protection builds order. Punishment builds drama. Protection scales. Punishment spirals. Keep returning to outcome. If a step makes delivery more honest and more likely, it belongs. If it creates spectacle and the need for another speech to justify it, it does not. This is why you insist that your choices be legible on a calendar, not only on a stage. Stages reward noise. Calendars reward truth. Apply the principle to your voice. Speak slower than your anxiety wants. Remove softeners and biographical padding. Keep verbs that move a thing from A to B. Train your face to remain calm when bait is tossed into the water. Train your eyes to rest on numbers. Train your hands to be still even when your heart wants to sprint. You are teaching your nervous system that disappointing a stranger is not danger. That is the fear hiding under your desire to look fair. You think disapproval will break the sky. It will not. It will teach you to breathe on your own. The Prince is hated because it says the quiet thing plainly. People judge by surface. Loyalty follows self-interest, and projections beat lectures until reality sends the bill. Refuse this, and you will keep playing an honorable game on a field built for ambush. Accept it, and you stop begging the field to love you. You start learning terrain. You build alliances by aligning incentives rather than sharing secrets. You test trust with small stakes before you hand over keys. You set traps only for lies, not for people. You design policies that do not rely on individual virtue to function. This is adult politics, whether practiced in a city, a company, or a family. None of this is out of reach. It is a sequence of small refusals that harden into character. Refuse to rush because someone else hit the panic button. Refuse to argue your boundary because your boundary is not up for auction. Refuse to sit in meetings that create the feeling of motion while stealing actual motion. Refuse to be reachable everywhere so that being reachable matters when it happens. Refuse to narrate motives to people who only want leverage. Refuse to be predictable in the ways that make you steerable and predictable in the ways that make you trustworthy. You will want to soften all of this with a speech about your heart. Keep that for your inner circle, and even there, keep it brief. They will trust you more when they see that your warmth sits inside a structure that does not bend to weather. You can be affectionate and still insist on a calendar. You can be playful and still end the call on time. You can be generous and still send the invoice. You can forgive and still close a door. Real kindness requires fences. Without fences, kindness becomes fuel for exploitation. Eventually, you will see the ending that the old book offered without apology. Power is not granted to the permanently polite. It is granted to the person who refuses to be drafted into other people's meanings. You can present kindness all day and be trampled if your frame is weak. You can speak 3 sentences a day and be heeded if your frame is strong. You build that frame by assembling small choices into a wall. What you answer and what you ignore, where you show up and where you are missing, when you stop and when you move. That wall is not a prison. It is a dam that turns chaos into current. So stop playing fair in the childish sense that confuses performance with justice. Start playing real. Set your rhythm and keep it. Choose distance when closeness would be cheap. Choose delay when speed would be sloppy. Choose short answers when paragraphs would volunteer leverage. Choose speak last when early noise would trap you in someone else's story. Choose policy, not panic, when the room tries to conscript you into its heartbeat. Choose receipts over rhetoric, outcomes over optics, and standards over sentiments that wilt under heat. You will not be universally loved for this. You are not required to be. You are required to become the person who can be trusted with real stakes. And that person does not let the courtroom of opinion set their hours. They set their hours. They set their terms. They live in a house where accusations evaporate because there is nothing for them to adhere to. They keep their circle small and their promises large. They let work speak at a volume their mouth never uses. They step around traps because they do not need to prove they can escape them. When you can carry that refusal without bitterness, you have learned the lesson other people call dark because it refuses to flatter their illusions. It is not a hymn to cruelty. It is a field guide to survival in a world where innocence is often rented as decoration by people who plan to exploit it. You did not build that world. You choose to navigate it without donating your throat to teeth that enjoy the taste of naive fairness. You choose to keep your power for the work that needs it. You choose to hold your silence like a weapon and your presence like a verdict. Stop playing fair. Start playing sovereign. Hold your line even when it hums. Let your calendar be your argument. Let your receipts be your witness box. Let your outcomes be the speech you never have to give again. And if they need a paradox to remember you by, leave them this. The less you explain, the more complete you look. The less you chase approval, the more the room tilts itself around the shape you hold. Do not treat any of this as attitude. Presence without proof is costume. Power lives in pattern. Day after day, you send the same signal. You move when it serves the mission, not when it serves someone else's mood. You feed the work, not the argument about the work. Beneath the behaviors is a worldview. The Prince states plainly, people act from interest, fear, habit, and the story they can tell afterward. So you do not offer your throat to the altar of appearing nice. You design your environment so that the best behavior is the easiest behavior. Is this manipulation? It is management. Manipulation hides cost and steals consent. Management names cost and preserves it. You are not faking calm. You are building calm so storms cannot conscript you. Perception will outrun explanation, which is why the shorthand that perception is everything carries enough truth to matter. No one can carry your backstory every time they see your face. They carry an impression shaped by your default pace, first sentence, follow-through, and reactions under pressure. Make those elements constant and you begin to feel untouchable because the cheap levers stop working. You are not invincible. You are expensive to move. If you want a tiny routine, install this loop. Each morning, choose one outcome that would make the day successful and defend it. Before the first conversation, take 3 slow breaths and remember you are allowed to pause. In meetings, speak last unless there is a fire only you can put out, and place a decision or a date on the table. In conflict, use short answers. Afterward, update your receipts so your record can speak for you later. Expand to social space. In a room where status is traded like currency, the average person nods quickly and blurts autobiography. You hold posture, watch currents, and pull a single thread. You do not collect contacts. You establish one alignment. You leave early on your time, and your absence does more for your mystique than an hour of small talk. Consider a reputational attack. Someone circulates a collage of half-truths. The average person posts a point-by-point rebuttal that deepens the groove. You ask what your receipts can say that your voice never could. Share the relevant document, the delivery date, the executed scope, and address the decision-maker with a clean timeline. Do not argue shadows. Light the ledger and return to work. Apply the same stance at home. A relative performs outrage to extract resources. The old you pays the tax in guilt. The new you names terms. Here is what I can provide, and here is the schedule. No insults, no confession, no apology for boundaries. You offer a decision and a date. Performers lose interest when the stage is bare. Adults appreciate predictability. Unpredictability matters. You're not trying to be random. You are trying to stay unreadable to manipulators and fully readable to professionals. Manipulators read need. Professionals read patterns. Make yourself dangerous to the former and indispensable to the latter by keeping your pattern simple and non-negotiable. Policy, not panic. Dates over drama. Facts in public. Care in private. When necessary, surprise with withdrawal instead of warfare. A new channel instead of a new speech. A refusal to appear instead of a fresh defense. Reputation is the dividend of repeated choices. A good reputation is the soft portrait others paint when you please the day. A strong reputation is the climate that precedes you and makes careless people choose their tone before they reach your door. You build the soft portrait with charm. You build the strong version with standards under stress. The first invites praise, the second commands caution. Pick the second, and even those who dislike you will speak carefully because losing access is more expensive than winning gossip. Do not mistake sovereignty for isolation. Your edge exists to protect something larger than comfort. The people who rely on your steadiness, the product that deserves discipline, the promise you made to future you. Disagree without turning the moment into a trial. Say no like a wall and thank you like a host. You will fail some days and explain anyway, fine. Close the tab and return to posture. If apology is required, offer one sentence and restore the boundary with action. Resist the urge to publish paragraphs about growth. If you must talk, talk to the page or a single trusted witness. Public confession is often a bonfire that warms strangers and burns your leverage. Hold the central paradox. The less you chase fairness as a costume, the more fair you can be in practice because you are no longer trading decisions for approval. The less you explain to mobs, the more you can explain to builders. The less you react, the more you can act. Keep this split clear. Clarity belongs to healing. Control is for power. Carry a picture into the next storm. Imagine two bridges. One is painted with slogans, built quickly for applause. The other is made of steel, inspected on schedule, built for trucks. When the river swells, you choose the bridge that kept its policy, not panic, held its standards, produced receipts, and delivered outcomes when the water rose. Be that bridge. Let others decorate theirs. Yours carries weight.